Alrighty, here I am. How's everybody doing tonight? This is it's kind of weird because I was really enjoying watching the sunrise. Did you what did you guys think of that intro there? I think I've mentioned on the channel before that I had thought about making another channel where I just post like GoPro footage of nature type stuff. And this was one of the videos from that channel. The channel is actually live. I'm not going to promote it because there's only 3 videos on it, and it's nothing exciting. But I decided to use it for this kind of purposes. But this was actually, so you guys can't see it anymore. This was actually our vacation last summer at Isle of Palms. I set the GoPro up on the balcony at the hotel just before sunrise and recorded the sunrise in the morning. I was pretty excited. How long is it? I only did like a half hour, but it was pretty fun. It's good to see all the usual names so far. We're at 21. I'm trying to stall a little bit, let the crowd build, so I don't have to repeat myself. And this is also a live stream that once I get going, it's going to be hard for me to stop. Because there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and it's also something that's very important, and I don't really want to have to interrupt kind of the flow of what's going on to talk to everybody. So I want to give everybody time to get here, kind of get my mind right for what we're going to talk about. I've been reading about this incident for the last couple hours, trying to figure out what I'm going to say. I don't really rehearse anything, but I just want to make sure I have the facts right, and it's not a lot of fun. So let's see. I was looking through the chat. Brent, I think you said you were watching Trump at the Delaware County Fair. Was there a live stream or something? It's pretty cool that you decided to give up watching him to come watch me. I don't know if I'm on his level, but I appreciate you being here. Blackheart, thank you for starting the night off with a donation. That was really nice. Let's see. Christy Lyles. Hi. Mark Lewis. Hi, guys. Let's see. It's common for people to get themselves. Answer that question. No. So he asked about, is it common for people to get themselves arrested so that they have a place to sleep and get medical care? No. The funny thing is, with most homeless people, especially when I was new, and in the dead of winter when it's extremely cold, sometimes I'll offer that to people. Because I can usually find a way to arrest somebody if I really have to, like if they've got a crack pipe but the problem is nowadays the jails don't even keep them for those kind of minor crimes. So it doesn't do any good. Mark, oops. You guys, thank you. I hope you don't plan on doing this every week, because if you do, I won't live stream because you need to keep your money. $100 donation is extremely generous. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But getting back to your question, in years past, when the jail would actually kind of hold people overnight for like minor crimes, public nuisance crimes, and stuff like that, I've offered people. I've said, hey, it's freezing outside. You're trespassed from every public building in the city. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Would you like me to take you to jail tonight? And they usually say no. Man, you know what? That's going to be a topic for a whole nother live stream sometime. And I might try to bring on a fellow cop when I do that, because there's an awful lot of homeless people that either aren't really homeless or they're definitely homeless by choice. They believe that them being homeless is their freedom, because they could live in like the YMCA, which is almost like a giant barracks. At least the ones that I've seen. There is literally a YMCA that during COVID was turned into a homeless shelter. There's group homes. A lot of them are offered all these things and they don't go there because they don't want to put up with the rules. So, um, Naughty Step, thank you very much for the $20 donation. You guys are awesome. I wasn't expecting it to get started this soon. I really do appreciate you guys. Spencer, I'm not going to address the comments that I saw on the YouTube video because I know how you feel about it, but I just want to let you know and think about you. And I hope the best for you, man. I thank you for coming and hanging out with me. I really do appreciate that. Let's see who else. Yeah, Jeannie. I think I normally go on at 7:30, but in the announcement video I said 7, and I think I just decided to stick with it. 7:30 to 8:30 is probably a pretty good time for me, but I wanted to do 7 because I had today off. My days off switched from Tuesday, Wednesday to Friday, Saturday. So now that I have Fridays and Saturdays off, it's my weekend. I was up all day. I don't know if you can see. It doesn't really show up on the screen yet, but I was outside all day watching my girls play soccer. There was not a cloud in the sky. It was like 80 degrees, which is hot when you're used to it being like 42 degrees and rainy. So I sat outside all day, you know, watching the kids. I smoked a pork shoulder today, so we had pulled pork for dinner. I've been very active today, and I was afraid I would be tired tonight, which there's always a good chance I'm going to hit a wall, which I'm literally drinking coffee out of my favorite poorly made police meetings mug right now. So that hopefully I have some energy to stick with you guys. Brent, thank you very much. I saw that. I'll do my best to not let any of these super chats slide by. I am very grateful that you guys are doing those things for me. Hang on, I gotta check something real quick. Okay. No, I am extremely grateful that you guys dropped those for me. There's a chance that I might miss some when I get really rolling. So I apologize in advance if I do that, but I do want to recognize you for your generosity. Thank you very much for sharing your hard-earned income with me. Let's see. Okay. Some of that, I'm not sure. I don't want to remember. Alrighty. Let's see. And I don't know how to make the last one go away. We're sitting at 31 people. We're 10 minutes in. I think this is probably a good place to start. Let me figure out how to do this here. I'm going to pull this up. So I figured to start things off, I wanted to fill everybody in on what happened. I suppose this isn't the best way to do it. But well, yeah, we're going to start here. Let me see. I'm just going to click and then click. There we go. All I do is drive a semi. It's only hard to park. Well, Brent, I appreciate it. So on January the 29th in Vancouver, Oregon, there was an officer involved shooting, and the person who got shot in that encounter was a police officer for this. I think it's the city of Vancouver, Oregon. I don't know how everything is divided up there. The way I came about this story was I was at work last Saturday, when I still worked Saturdays, and I have a supervisor who he's kind of keen to my YouTube thing, and he likes watching me, and he likes the fact that I do it. And he was sitting across the table and asked me, "Hey, have you heard about that that officer involved shooting where an officer was fighting with a robbery suspect on his porch, and then officers showed up on scene and ended up shooting the officer?" And I had not heard about it. And the thing that he was really focused in on is he had heard the 911 call, and he really wanted me to listen to the 911 call and he thought it was interesting what information the dispatcher was trying to gather, what information they weren't trying to gather, and he thought that might have contributed to the mistake that was made that ended with this police officer getting killed. So I started looking it up, and before I listened to the 911 call, I actually heard the interview with the deputy who fired the fatal shots, which I'm going to play for you guys tonight. It's a long interview, but it's worth listening to. And then I went back and listened to the 911 call. Then I started looking into it, and I found that there's actually drone footage overhead of the suspect and the officer who was off duty at his own home, fighting with the suspect before officers arrived. And then it shows the officers pull up, and it shows the shooting. So I wanted to talk about all this tonight, but in order to do that, we have to start at the beginning and show what started all this. Before we do that, I'll recognize Tiger Lily with $4.99. Is that euro or is that pound sterling? I don't know what country you're from. Let me know and I'll try to catch it. And then Mike with another $5. Thank you very much. You're also super active in the comments, so I appreciate that. And then here's a quick note that Vancouver is just across the river. It's in Washington State. Oh, so it's in Washington, but it's right near Oregon. Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. I wasn't aware of that. So and then also before I get started, and this might be something I should say at the end. I don't know, but when we review incidents like this and stories like this, got it, Tiger Pounds. When we review stories like this, I want you to look at it through the lens of other police involved shootings and the reaction to them, because there was a police involved shooting in Columbus, Ohio, almost a year ago today, almost exactly a year ago today, where an officer showed up and there was a juvenile female with a knife actively pursuing another juvenile female. And the officer discharged his firearm and killed the person with a knife that appeared to be the aggressor. A lot of the stuff that was in the media and on social media in particular, shared by celebrities and people across the country, was that this young girl was just trying to defend herself from some bullies, and police officers showed up on scene and killed her, saying that she killed her in cold blood, or that they killed her in cold blood and all the other stuff. Well, here's a case where a man was legitimately just trying to defend himself from an attacker at his own home, and the officers showed up and ended up shooting and killing him. And it was a tragic accident. And I think it's worth pointing out that, tragic accidents are going to happen from time to time, and it's not always going to be a police officer that's the victim. It could be somebody else. And the mere occurrence of a tragic accident doesn't mean that there's something wrong with our society. You know what I mean? It's just accidents are going to happen, and sometimes they're extremely tragic. So, that got all up on my mustache. So here's an article I found talking about that evening. At approximately 8:14 p.m. on January the 29th, a clerk at a Chevron gas station on 117th Street in Orchards called 911 to report that he was being robbed at gunpoint. He said a man pointed a handgun at his chest and demanded all of the money in the register. The clerk provided the suspect description and the last known direction of travel to investigators. And then it goes on to say that there was a pursuit. So the pursuit lasted about 5 minutes before law enforcement deployed spike strips near 73rd and 179th. The Mercedes mixed the strips but crashed. The driver, later identified by suspects as Segura, his name was Julio Cesar Segura, ran from the car to the northeast of 219th Street and 79th Court, according to the investigation. Let me see. Multiple law enforcement agencies. So you had SWAT teams, quick reaction teams, all kinds of people were showing up. At 8:51, this is about 10 minutes later, responding officers received an updated description of the suspect. It was the third description that had gone out. A dark or tan-skinned white male with shaggy hair, glasses, wearing long-sleeve shirt, black undershirt, blue jeans, and a white flat bill cap. 1 minute later, a drone spotted someone walking northeast on this area. The person who they believed was the robbery suspect. At 8:56, Sahota, that's Officer Donald Sahota's wife, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the name right. You guys know that I'm not very good with names. But his wife called 911 to report a stranger was at their door acting suspicious. He told them he had crashed his car and that they could hear sirens in the background, according to the video. His wife told the 911 dispatcher that her husband is a police officer and that he was armed. A dispatcher told the wife that the husband should close the door and stay inside, and that officers were in the area. The dispatcher tried to get a description from her, and she could hear that her husband relaying the information in the background. Let's see. So at 8:57, the officer exited the house with a handgun and ordered Segura to the ground. Sahota's wife told the dispatcher she was trying to find handcuffs to assist her husband. Moments later, the two men started struggling, according to the investigative records. Let's see. The confrontation lasted about a minute and 45 seconds. The aerial footage shows the men fighting. So what happened was there was a guy who robbed a convenience store, and he fled the convenience store. Officers tried to spike strip his car. He wrecked. He ran up to this officer's house and he tried to play it cool. The officer comes to the door and realizes there's something strange going on. Can hear a bunch of sirens in the background. Goes to try to detain this male. There was a struggle, and then officers arrived and ended up shooting the officer. Before I get too much further into kind of my thoughts on everything, I want to walk you all through what happened. So I want to play the 911 call. I've got that here. When I do that, I'm going to get out of the way. Here it is.
And how can I help you?
There's a stranger at our door saying he just crashed his car and he needs us to call somebody, but he's very suspicious and we hear a bunch of sirens in the background.
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
Yes, please.
Give me 1 second, okay?
Yeah, my husband's a police officer. He's at the door with him right now.
Okay, can you give me a description of him by chance?
Of my husband or the...
the subject.
No, I'm in the other part of the house.
Okay, so no description at this time. Okay, and let's see here.
He's talking to him at the front door right now.
Okay, all right. Do you guys keeping the door closed?
My husband has the door open. He's a police officer and he is armed.
Okay. Okay, so what I want you to do is, can you have him close the door? And can I get a description from him? We're looking for someone in the area, and so that's why.
I'm sure that's who it is.
Yeah, I think so too. So, if you're able to, please close the door and get a description if you can.
No, they're looking for somebody, honey.
Yeah, I need
they're on the line.
I need a description as soon as possible.
Yep, please. It's him. We need a description. He's Latino male. I'm just not comfortable right now.
I understand. So Hispanic male, black hair, 5'5". Any other descriptors for him, like clothing?
She's trying to keep him here. Oh my gosh, they're in an altercation. You have to get to our house from 80.
Yeah, they're coming as fast as they can. Okay, keep that door closed. Okay, keep that door closed. We have your address.
You can't get to my house from 219th Street.
Okay, and where exactly can they get to your house from? Just want to make sure.
239th Street.
Get the house.
I need to find some handcuffs. He's got them on the ground.
Your husband has them on the ground?
Yes.
Okay, so restrained on the ground?
Yes, and I don't know where handcuffs are right now.
Okay. Just keep me as updated as possible, okay?
you have to get here from 239th Street.
Yeah, I let them know. Get to the house from 239th Street, okay? Keep me updated.
God damn it. He's in a fight with him right now.
Okay, just keep me updated.
Oh, hang on. I gotta call my.
They're moving in now, okay?
I need to call my son-in-law.
Well, you just keep me on the line until they make contact, okay?
Devin,
They're moving in now.
You have to call my son-in-law, Devin Jacuna, please. Oh my God.
You want me to call them?
Yes.
Okay, I'll get the information when they're done. Okay, I just want to.
He's fighting with him right now. I don't know what to do. Oh my God.
Yeah, just I want you to keep your safe distance.
Alrighty, so there's the 911 call, and right after this is when the officers show up and they shoot this man who was at his house. People don't understand. Well, and I don't know if that's people don't understand. I'm trying to find the right words to say, because if you just listen to the 911 call, you're going to say, listen, she told him all the information. The police should know what's going on. How can something like this happen? There's a lot of things going on. And one thing you have to realize is that there's a dispatcher or a 911 call taker or whatever, who's listening to the phone call and typing everything down as fast as they can. As they update the run, it goes to a screen that the dispatcher is looking at. And then the dispatcher is seeing all these updates, and the dispatcher is trying to give the officers as much up-to-date information as possible. The other problem is that there's a lot of officers responding to this run. There was a robbery at a gas station, a pursuit, which whenever there's a vehicular pursuit, that's a big deal. A lot of officers are going to try to get in the area. Given the location this was near a state border, near multiple jurisdictions, there's going to be a lot of very complicated radio traffic going on, a lot of people stepping on each other, and the dispatcher is not going to have an opportunity really to get all the information out that they might want to. So they actually released the radio traffic as well that I have for you. Let me see. I'm going to read through some of these comments before I go to that. Because that's what this is for. This is to kind of help you guys understand what's going through a police officer's mind during these situations and kind of how these situations unfold through the eyes of a police officer. So why would you ever open your door to a stranger that has never seen no one has ever seen Clockwork Orange? Man, that's an old reference that a lot of people that watch my videos would probably get that, because the crowd that watch my videos is a slightly older crowd. But as far as answering the door, I mean, I've never had anybody super goofy come to my house and bang on the door, but I have arrested somebody in my own backyard before, and I have confronted people on my street before. My next door neighbors a couple years ago had one of those Bagster bags out where they were remodeling a bathroom. So they had this bag out there. It had old toilets and plumbing and all kinds of stuff. And I still worked third shift. It was one of my nights off. I was playing Xbox, and I walked into the kitchen to get a drink of water. And when I walked by the door, I saw out on the street a flicker of a light at maybe 3 a.m. I don't remember what time it was, but it was odd. So I stopped, come back and look out the door, and there's somebody with a flashlight out in front of my house. Now, you guys, it may or may not surprise you, but I'm not afraid to confront somebody. So I walked outside with a flashlight of my own. Little did this person know who was outside of my house with a flashlight that my flashlight was attached to the bottom of a firearm. So I pointed my flashlight at him, and I had some words with him, told him he was taking this bag and he was dumping everything on the ground. I made sure that he cleaned up all the trash that he put on the ground, and I made sure he got in his vehicle and he left. I'm a police officer. I'm equipped to do those kind of things. I'm not afraid to confront weird people that are at my house. I literally arrested a guy who had committed 7 or 8 burglaries. I arrested him in my own yard. That's just what we do. So this officer probably thought he just had a drunk driver that had approached his house. A drunk driver that wrecked his car and was trying to, call and get a hook so that he wouldn't get in trouble by the police. And the officer was like, you know what, I'm going to hang on to this guy. I'm going to detain him. He didn't know this guy had just committed a robbery. So there's the explanation for that. Let me see if I can get the right video up here. The radio traffic. Let me take it back to the beginning. I'm going to get out of the way.
Units, be advised we're getting a suspicious person.
We're
getting a suspicious person call saying there's a stranger at the door saying that they crashed their car.
Advise them not to come to the door and just stay inside.
I copy.
81 to 469. I can get to 82nd pretty quick too if needed. Yeah, if we know he's there, dispatch, keep them on the line. UAS obviously going to keep an eye on him. Let's get a number of cars staged right there at 82nd Avenue and be quick to respond down. As a matter of fact, you can probably go south on 82nd Avenue, a couple blocks and get staged.
Okay, and the RP is telling us that their husband is.
The
RP is telling us that their husband is a law enforcement officer and is armed. We're keeping them on the line.
Air 2, this guy is leaving eastbound now. Just hello.
Air 2, is he going through the fields there?
Okay, he's walking back to the porch. He was walking off, now he's back at the porch. I got two people out there. Looks like guys confront them.
Let's get some units down there. Looks like the guy's taking the other guy into custody.
Yeah, all you units staged on 82nd Avenue, head in.
Hey, he's got this guy on the ground. I can't tell. It looks like they might be fighting.
They're definitely fighting. Let's move down there, guys. They're definitely fighting.
Copy that.
We're moving in.
They're fighting. Code 3 response. Come in.
Code 3, your target's going to be.
It's like a hot thing just fell like a gun or something, and they're still wrestling in the front.
Oh, we're getting close.
They're still struggling. Stepping up.
Hey, come in. That's the right road. Come up. Right where you're at. Take a right. Okay, you're going to have to run up. It's a little ways up there. They're still fighting. We got the gun right there, I think. You just picked it up.
81, we got shots fired. Get the house.
So I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but that was 2 minutes and 6 seconds of radio traffic. One of the very first things on the radio was that the homeowner is a police officer and he's out there confronting the suspect. Basically, from that point on, the radio traffic was dominated by the officers and the drone operators and the airship operators, whoever that was. There was not a lot of opportunity for the dispatcher to get information out that was coming from the call taker. And it's really hard to weigh what is most important in that situation. Because I can tell you as an officer, when I'm responding on a run, I'm not afraid to snap back at a dispatcher who is updating me on something that I think is bullshit that I don't need to know about right now. And usually what I'll say is I'll grab the mic and I'll kind of yell. I'm like, hey, Officer Ben, I'm pulling up. When I say I'm pulling up, that's me saying you need to shut up. And it's kind of what I'm saying to everybody. Like, everyone in the air needs to shut up for a second. I'm going in by myself. I need the air. This situation, they knew the guy had gone into this area. They knew that they had a caller that said there's a suspicious person at their house. What they were doing is they were trying to set up a tactical approach that they could go up. They were trying to get the caller to stay inside. That's what they were airing for the dispatcher to relay that message. And they had a lot of stuff going on. They were driving 70, 80 miles an hour during roads that they aren't familiar with, trying to keep an eye on the road, trying to listen to the radio, trying to make sure they knew where all their buddies were, not crash their car, and have a general idea of what was going on and what they were going to find when they got there. Another thing that I often do, and I was trying to think of this when I was listening to the 911 call, um, is that, I'll hear a run go out and it'll say, hey, at the corner of X and Y Street, there's, and I'll just hear like, blah, 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 man with a gun, approaching a female. Now they're heading eastbound, yada, yada, yada. If I'm blocks and blocks and blocks away, the only thing that I hear was man with a gun, female victim running eastbound. Okay, where am I? How am I going to get there? Do I need to go in behind them, or am I close enough that I can come up in front of them, cut them off, anticipate where they're going? Another thing that I do when I'm listening to everything as I go, and I'm hoping that I can catch another description. But right before I pull up, if I'm like 30 seconds out, I'll grab the mic and I'll say, what's a description? Because I want to know exactly what it is that I'm looking for moments before I pull up. I want the most recent, most accurate description, because often the stuff that comes in the beginning is not the most accurate information. If you caught that when I was reading the article before, they mentioned that a description of the suspect had been um, given 3 times, and it was a different description each time. So the officers heard a couple of descriptions, and they heard basically what they hear when you hear this run is that there's a police officer who is potentially fighting for his life, and you need to get there. And then you have the airship talking about how there was 2 men, they were struggling. They saw something fall to the ground. They believed it was a firearm. And then I can't remember if it was on this part of the scripture or not, but one man ran into the house, and then officers arrive, and then you hear officers yelling, screaming that there were shots fired. Now we're going to watch a little bit of the drone footage. Let me find this. I think I've got it at the right spot. So this is going to be the drone footage, and this is what the drone pilot was seeing right before officers arrived. I didn't realize it wasn't sound at this part. So there it is. There's the officer detaining him, telling him to get down to his knees. This is probably when he's asking his wife to grab him some handcuffs. You see that he rolled on him, and he has that knife, and I'm pretty sure this is where he's stabbing the officer. And that's the officer dropping his gun, obviously. I believe this is a 52-year-old police officer fighting with a 29-year-old man. So that's the drone footage. Let's see if I can get it up to the moment. They kind of cut it off, but well, there's just not the frames on here. You can see that there's a fight. There's a gun on the ground. Can you guys see my cursor? There's a gun on the ground right here. This is the officer, and this is the suspect. He goes running into the house. This is about the time that officers are pulling up. I think that's on this part of the video.
82nd Avenue, head in.
Yeah, he's got this guy on the ground.
Are they still struggling up there?
I can't tell. Looks like they might be fighting.
Hit record. You're recording, right?
They're definitely fighting. Let's move
Hit
down there, guys.
record.
They're definitely fighting.
Yeah. Because that guy's a cop. He's probably armed.
Yes, they are fighting.
Remember that a lot of the talking you're hearing back and forth between these are guys in a airship that are communicating with each other. They're not necessarily broadcasting this information over the air.
Code 3 response, come in.
Is that his gun on the ground?
Code 3. 84th Avenue.
Looks like a hot thing just fell, like a gun or something, and they're still wrestling in the front. Where are they?
All right, it's to their east, right there.
That was something there. I'm sorry if the mic gets all wonky when I start and stop the video. The air crew is looking around. He's panning the camera out and he's saying, "Where are they?" That's exactly what this officer's thinking.
They're on the road. They're on the access road.
Okay, come in. That's the right road, come up. Right where you're at. Take a right.
He got out of his car, I think.
Okay, you're gonna have to run up. It's a little ways up there. They're still fighting.
I'm just going to let this roll for another minute or so. So that was the suspect entering the officer's house. I've already watched this a bunch of times, and it still gets me every time. What's the officer supposed to do? I mean, this is just the it's like a confluence of everything wrong that could go wrong with this situation. I have the audio recording of the officer describing what he saw when he pulled up. And I heard his description of events before I ever saw any of the footage. And I heard the 911 call and I heard his testimony. And I remember thinking, man, I know exactly how that happened. It's unbelievable that we have all this footage that shows exactly how it happened as well. Because the officer went outside to confront an individual. He didn't know what was going on with that individual, but he confronted him nonetheless. And then he realized that there was something very wrong with this situation and decided that it was his responsibility to take action. He began to take action. And then that confrontation became extremely violent. He was stabbed, I think 3 times. He was stabbed with such ferocity that the suspect, Segura, believed that he had killed the officer. So this officer is on the ground, gravely injured. He knew that he had dropped his firearm, and he also knew that that man who had just tried to kill him just ran into his house. So the officer, acting on instinct, turned, grabbed his firearm, and went running back towards his house. When it's kind of funny. I need to lighten this up a little bit. When I arrested a guy in my yard a couple years ago, I've told the story on my YouTube channel, but I will give you the brief description now. Basically, I was walking into my house. I'd gotten off work at I was working third shift, and I was walking into the house. I had a little bit of overtime, so I was running late. And in between my house and my neighbor's house, I saw a man who didn't belong, someone that I had never seen before. I thought maybe he was one of my neighbor's kids' friends. So I decided to kind of harass him, because I like to harass my neighbor's kids' friends, because he was up to some stuff that he should have been up to. And the guy started acting incredibly strange. And then finally I asked him, what house did you come from? He pointed at my house. That was the moment that I realized he was really not doing something good. And then I also was terrified that he really had been in my house. I'm trying to think of what year it was. I had an infant daughter and a toddler and a wife that were supposed to be sleeping peacefully in their beds. But for all I knew, this guy, who was a young man, I think he was 22 years old, over 6 foot tall, 250 plus pounds, just told me that he came from my house. So there was a fight. And I wasn't going to lose that fight. Because I didn't know if he had been in my house. This officer was in the opposite position. He was going to make sure this guy did not make it into his house no matter what. So he was completely in the black. All he knew was that he had just been stabbed. He was very severely injured, and that the suspect that he had just tried to kill him was now in his house with his wife. Yeah, when I did it, I was still in uniform. But this officer picked up his gun after being mortally, like severely injured, and went to get back in the fight. The officers arrived on scene, believed that the officer had somehow kept this man out of his house, and that the suspect was now running into the officer's house. And that's how this kind of thing happens. I've got the video of the officer telling his side of the story. Is it this one? I'm going to get out of the way here. I'm going to warn you, this is very difficult to listen to, but it's important so that we can have a picture of what really happened here and how this stuff happened.
The purpose of this interview is for a criminal investigation. We are interviewing you because you are the subject of the investigation. Is there anything that would hinder you from giving a comprehensive, detailed, truthful statement at this time?
This has been very difficult, but I will do my best.
Nobody in this room would understand what you went through during the incident. It's incumbent upon you to make everyone understand in detail why it was reasonable to respond with the deadly force that you used.
Okay.
Okay. Were you equipped with any body-worn cameras or dash cams in your vehicle?
We don't have any of those. So I went around Officer Seam and I drove up. And then that's when I drove up to the house. Sorry. So I pulled up to the front of the house. And I see a person who generally matches the last update that I had. Tan skin male, white black combination of shirt and jeans. That person is running back towards what I can see as a gun laying on the ground. As I pull up, that person reaches down and gets for the gun. As he does that, he looks right at me. But it's all very fluid, very fast. Looks at me, reaches down, grabbing the gun, takes a hold of the gun, and runs back to the house. I put my Tahoe in park, and I got out, and I could see shadow of something went through the front door, and it looked like it closed. The male that I saw pick up the gun, I saw him run to the front door, and he's making movements to get in the door. I gave him commands to get on the ground. I didn't see any response from those commands. He's actively trying to get in the door. I'm not sure if he's trying to kick it, if he's trying to beat on it. I can see that he's trying to get in. At that moment, I knew I had an armed robber, someone who robbed a convenience store with a gun. I knew someone who was completely evading law enforcement and didn't want to be caught by their driving actions and by what they were doing. I knew there was a fight with a homeowner and a law enforcement officer. I knew there was a gun that had been dropped, and I just watched someone pick it up and run towards the house. And someone who resembled what I was given as a last description of that person to be the suspect. So I believed that if that person got in the house, they would kill them. And I had to stop that person from getting in and hurting those innocent people. So I fired my gun multiple times.
I don't know if there's anything I can say about what happened. I'm very grateful that there's so much material to review with this case. It's unfortunate that most cases don't have this much material to see. But this would also demonstrate a good reason why police officers need things like helicopters and surveillance and all the other kind of stuff. Not only to help them catch bad guys or suspects, but so that you can clearly see what's going on in these situations. This is a situation that was absolute and utter chaos from the beginning to the end. And it's just the worst outcome possible, which I switched to whiskey, by the way. I was doing pretty good until I heard him talking again. That's incredible. It's going to take him a long time before he can go back to work. I don't know that he'll ever work a uniform patrol job again. I don't know if I could. I don't want to just sit here and play him crying for 14 minutes because that's basically what he does. Here's what I'll do. This YouTube channel, the Oregonian, if you type in the Vancouver officer killed by officer involved shooting or something like that, you'll get their YouTube channel. And after this post, I'll try to put this in the video description. I would encourage everybody to listen to the entire thing. It's almost just as hard for me to describe it as it was for him to talk about it. That's probably not a fair thing to say. He's going through it right now. But the moment, I think they took a break shortly after this. And then they come back and they do their legal stuff. And then he starts talking again. But he talks about how he shot the officer and he saw the officer slump over. And went into great detail about what he experienced there. And that he believed he had just shot the quote unquote bad guy. And then he looked up at the house and he was going to enter the house and make sure the family was okay. And he saw two hands come out the door. And then he saw a head come out the door and he saw somebody come out with their hands up. And that was the moment that he realized that he had just shot the man who was defending his home and that it was the suspect who was actually sticking his hands out the door and was coming to surrender and turn himself in. And with all of the chaos, the officers who were responding pulled him aside. Like, when there's an officer involved shooting, you take the officer who was involved or any officers who were involved and you pull them aside. You're like, you know what, you're no longer, your job is done. It's time for you to get out of the scene. We've got it from here. So they grabbed him and they escorted him off the scene. They took the man who was shot And I'm assuming they started placing him in handcuffs and started addressing the other people who they believed were the victims. And it took them a while to figure out who was who. And if you listen to the rest of the radio traffic, that becomes clear. But I don't know. I don't think I need to add much more to this. And I don't know how much more I can talk about it, to be honest. I'm losing it. But this is, and before I get going too far, I will say, because there's some things that people are going to say. No, I'll go right into it. So the guy who brought this story up to me, he asked me if I was aware of the shooting and if I had heard the 911 calls, and I told him that I had not. And I remember, he was asking me, he's like, how does that happen? Like, how do you make that mistake? And he talks about like our training and all this other stuff. And he talks about listening to the 911 call and about how he didn't believe that the call taker was asking for the right information. And, we all second guess people's actions in these cases. And one of the reasons that we second guess people's actions is because of how we're trained. We literally, I don't remember if we had scenarios on no, we do. We run scenarios all the way back through the academy where you're responding on scene. It's a scary scene, a deadly scene. Like you're searching the building for a burglary suspect, and you're checking your corners, and then the business owner will come out. And sometimes the business owner is holding a gun because he was there to defend his business. And they want us to challenge people before we just start opening fire. And they also train us that if you're a police officer and you're off duty and you're near, like, let's say you're at a movie and there's a shooting that starts happening at the movie, you have a duty to respond. But what are you going to do when officers arrive? How do you respond when officers arrive and start giving commands? We're trained, and it's drilled into our heads that we're supposed to identify ourselves, put our hands up, don't make any sudden movements, follow all orders given by uniform officers. If that means that you're going to get put on your knees and someone's going to put cuffs on you, that means that someone's going to put cuffs on you. It's being tossed to the ground and handcuffed is better than getting killed. So people automatically thought, why didn't this officer respond appropriately? Why didn't the officers who arrived on scene have a good description? They had a good description. Why didn't they know the description? Why didn't, there's just so many things. But there really is kind of like the fog of war that occurs, that just because all that information has been stated and it's been put out, it doesn't mean that the officer arriving on scene has that at the forefront of his mind. And this is also at night in a strange neighborhood up a long driveway. And then you have an officer who, sure, according to his training, he should have given up when officers responded. But he wasn't reacting to his training. He just wanted to make sure his wife was okay. And I'm fairly certain that I would have done the same thing. I can't imagine being in that situation and being able to say, hey, I'm going to wait. I'm going to let you guys go into my house first. That's not the way it is. And the other thing is that the guy, the officer who died, Sahota, he went into, his brain switched into cop mode. He was no longer an off-duty police officer in that moment. He was just a cop. And when he heard the sirens coming and he saw officers show up on scene, he wasn't thinking that they're looking at me like I'm a suspect, or he wasn't thinking anything. He was just thinking, all right, my backup's here. I'm going in. There's situations like this that happen that almost no matter how much you train or how much you know, it's unavoidable. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that situation. I think I'm done with that. Sherry, thank you very much for the $10 donation. Let's see. Why wouldn't the officer Soda know the danger to grab his gun when the cop pulled up and he issued commands? I mean, no disrespect to him. Thank you. I think I just answered that question. In his mind, he wasn't an off-duty cop at his house. He was just a cop. He had been in a fight, and that his friends were there, and it was time to get back into the fight. I can't imagine anything else going through his head at that moment. And there's also, like, you have to realize that when you're in those extreme situations that you go black as a human being. There's only so much information that the brain can take before you start acting on your pure instincts. And that officer was purely acting on instincts. There's no other way to describe what was going on. You don't have to apologize, Sherry. I wasn't paying attention to when I said that stuff based on when you asked that question. So, I don't know. I'm almost glad there's only 40 of you here because that was a hard one. Plus I have like leaky eye syndrome. It's hereditary. I got it from my grandfather. He used to do the same thing. So don't worry about me. It's just a twitch. So yes, Mark, I'm a Christian. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about a lot of stuff. It's not what the purpose of the channel is, but I am. Yeah, Jess, you're right. He was just in husband mode, trying to save his wife. And so was the officer. Whew. Jeff, thank you. No, my dogs are doing good. They're annoying. They're crazy. Angelique, I'm glad that you made it for your first live stream with me. Usually they're a little bit more fun. I don't know what the next one's going to be. You guys are going to have to, like, if you have a thought, like whenever you're watching my videos or whatever, if you have a thought about what you think my next live stream would be, drop it in the comments. Because on this channel particularly, I pretty much read all the comments. I have time. It doesn't generate as many as my other channel does. You can also go to my Discord and mention it there. I would like my next live stream to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more uplifting. We'll figure something out. Get with me on that. And I want to know kind of what you guys want to see on my live streams. Is it okay to just have a live stream where I just chill out? You guys can send me videos and I can play those videos and kind of react to them, that kind of thing. I don't know, something that's a lot more fun. And one of these days I'm going to do a live stream on the sock puppet master chick and go over a lot of her videos. That would be fun. So those are some of my ideas for the future. Yeah, Brent, nobody better ever make it into my house. Nobody cares. Guess who is getting banned from my channel forever? Right there. See, that's the other thing that's nice about having a small stream and having a quaint group of people, is that when stuff like that comes up, I'll just ban you from the channel forever. So I never have to see your stuff again. You know, I was debating how I was going to address this. Over at, I don't know if everybody here is aware of the channel called Lackluster that did a video on me. Well, he took offense to the way I handled a video where I was defending officers who did absolutely nothing wrong and performed their duties to the letter of what they were expected to do. Not only do they perform their duties to the level that they were expected to do, but they could have very easily not done their job. Like, I don't know if people realize how hard it is for a police officer to charge someone with a crime, someone who they interact with on a regular basis, somebody who's well respected in the community, someone who's a big deal, and somebody who's an attorney. And you know for a fact that you do the slightest thing wrong, you're going to be scrutinized heavily. So you have to be very careful. When someone's an attorney, you're very careful with how you handle those people. The officers did what they did, and they did a fantastic job. He made a video saying that the officers did not, and saying that he was implying that I was corrupt and that I was covering up for the officers. That caused a lot of his followers to come to my stream or my channel and start calling me a tyrant and saying that I've been covering for corrupt cops and all this stuff. They were dropping hundreds of comments, probably thousands for all I know. So I made a video saying, look, you're wrong. You guys are working on bad information, and here's the reason why. For the last 2 weeks, it actually got kind of quiet, but then today he came out and put out a video, and he said that after watching my video, he realized that he made some mistakes and that he said a lot of things that he probably shouldn't have said. And he issued his version of an apology. Sorry. We'll hide you from the channel. And remove. Ta-da. Yeah, their comments did help the algorithm. But yeah, that person's already banned. So he issued a statement today that came out where he said, hey, I was wrong. I've now got the correct information. And it was somewhat of an apology. The funny thing is, his apology triggered a response from a lot more of his followers, and they started bombing my channel again today, calling me names, calling me corrupt, and all this other stuff. I don't know. It was a strange day, a very strange day. I don't know how the person that they respect and admire can come out and say that he made a mistake and that I was correct, and he issued somewhat of an apology towards me. And then that is something that causes his followers to come back and start attacking me again. That's not something I understand, but it's something that happened today. But he did issue a correction, which was nice. And maybe I'll record a very short video saying, hey, he issued a correction. Like, I appreciate that. I don't know. I kind of just want the whole lackluster thing to go away. I mean, but at the same time, it's kind of good. He's got 400 and some thousand subscribers last time I checked. And if he's going to send people over to my channel, I'll take the views. I'll take the ad revenue. Like, it was kind of nice to get some views on this channel. So I don't know. That's a weird situation. Plus, I don't want to get into the YouTuber battles. Like, that stuff is corny. That's not what I'm about. The only thing that frustrates me was that, the reason I started doing YouTube is so that I could defend guys that are honorable people, and that I don't like seeing honorable men have their name tarnished and having people talk bad about them, telling things about them that aren't true. And that literally the whole reason I have these YouTube channels is so I can stand up and defend these guys and put the truth out there. So when he made that video saying those things, of course, I put out a video defending him and defending myself as well, because that's the whole purpose that I have these channels. I do a lot of the educational side and just telling stories and stuff like that, but I also do it so that when I have the opportunity, I can take advantage of that. So let's see. I think part of the problem is the police not being able to do anything in some areas. Yeah. Well, and sorry, I've still got my leaky eye has gotten into my nose. Sorry, I'm not trying to be gross. Part of the problem is that the police are not being able to do anything. In some areas, the judges and prosecutors are really lazy. And part of the problem with that video was that people don't understand the rules that the police officers have to follow. I don't know. It's just, there was a lot to that. And I had something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. I don't know. There was more, but that was a good point. So anyway, let's see. I am new to your channel and you are a grunt style. You are ex-army. Oh, cool. Whiskey Scout. Yeah, I wear grunt style a lot. It's not just because I was in the army. It's because I like the way they fit. Am I wearing one now? I am. Well, I mean, I've been losing weight lately and I've not been lifting. I've been rowing, so my arms are smaller. But typically, grunt style shirts make my arms look big, so I like wearing them. And they fit good. They fit tight around my neck, which I'm really anal about having loose shirts around my neck. And I like the thinner material that they have. So that's the main reason I wear grunt style shirts all the time. I don't know. And they do make good designs, but I wasn't a grunt. I was an MP in the army. I don't know if I think I've said that on the channel before. Yes, and welcome to the channel. Thanks, Donna, for being polite on my behalf. Yeah, Jess, I'm sorry if people are responding in crazy ways to your channel or to your comments on the channel. Well, and the other thing that's really funny is that in my response video, I accuse them of all kind of thinking or sharing a brain. I said, you guys all share a brain. Well, the funny thing is, if you look at the comments that they're dropping on my channel, they're all dropping the same freaking comment. They're doing the same thing over and over and over again, almost like they share a brain. So they're angry that I said they share a brain, but then they're out there proving my point, which is kind of funny. Here's one. If only we could get you to train our police officers from Bahrain. That's something too that I try to communicate with the channel. A lot of people see me doing police work and they hear my voice and they hear my opinions and they see how I do things. They think that I'm a really good police officer and that there needs to be more like me. I'll accept a portion of that compliment. But the thing that I really like to show is that there's a lot more police officers that are just like me. I'm not an outlier. I'm just the one that has a platform that comes out and talks to people. Like I wouldn't be the police officer I was today if I wasn't learning from other police officers. And almost everybody on my unit is exactly like me. Maybe not exactly, but very similar to me. I'm a very average cop. I'm very much like most cops. I don't know. That's something that I really want people to understand. It's one of the real purposes of the channel. It's not about me trying to say how good I am or anything like that. It's that there's a lot of guys just like me. I just might be more articulate than some of them and better looking. I don't know. Let's see. Is there anything else that's incredibly important that I need to talk about before I go? Trying to keep up with the comments. Tonight was a little bit easier, a little bit slower. Who knows? And there's a couple of my normal ones that didn't make it today. 556 Media, the guy I called 223. I didn't see him in here. Anybody else? Any of you guys other favorites? Trying to scroll through. Oh, Spencer's still in here? I haven't seen his comments. Oh. Best mustache on officer. You know, I had a handlebar mustache a couple years ago, even though it's against regulations. It's just that when I let it get really long so I can handlebar it, when I sleep, it curls up and it tickles the inside of my nose. And that's horrible. Plus, you have to wax it and like constantly be pulling it aside. So I keep it trimmed nowadays. And the other part is that to grow a handlebar mustache, you have to trim it to like here, and then you have to let it grow really long, because if it's really to the corners of your mouth, you can't handlebar it. It's a real pain in the butt. So you have to trim it to there. And then when you get tired of having handlebar, you have to shave the whole thing off and start over. Because if you just trim a handlebar mustache short, you're left with a Hitler mustache. And a bald white guy cop with a Hitler mustache is really not a good look. So there's that. Sherry, think that's your second super chat of the day. First of all, I really appreciate it. You're very kind. Second of all, save your money for somebody else. I really appreciate it. I don't know that I'm worth it 2 times in one video, but thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. All right, it is 8:20. I've gone on for an hour and 20 minutes. My intent was to go on for 1 hour. I think I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thanks for... Oh yeah, Matt D isn't here. He's actually a personal friend of mine. He said he was going to be here. He must have had something better to do. I'll shoot him a text here in a minute. But anyway, thanks for hanging out kind of after I went over the whole topic of discussion. That was a pretty heavy topic, and I just talking after the fact has kind of helped me calm down a little bit. It's stressful watching all that stuff again and trying to communicate what was going through their heads. It really kind of puts you in the moment. So talking about everything after the fact has kind of helped my nerves a little bit. And I'm going to go upstairs and have a little bit more of this, just enough to help me sleep. I have to work in the morning, so I'll be up at 4:45. But I only had about an ounce, and I'll have a little bit more, and that'll help me sleep. And we'll do this again next week, right? 7 o'clock on Saturday nights. I think that's what we're going to try to do for the foreseeable future, unless I get a date on a Saturday night sometime. I might treat my wife to a nice dinner sometime. I don't know. We always have Friday nights. But regardless, I'm going to get out of here for real, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you very much for all the super chats. I don't keep a running tally, but you guys are incredible. I don't know. It means a lot to me. It really does. And Mr. and Mrs. Lewis, next week, give that money to somebody else. You're very kind. I really appreciate your generosity, but it would be, you've done your share. Let's just put it that way. For everybody else, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.